Okay, so it just doubles as a kind of like 160 subscriber special. This is also to get to see who's a bit to see who's still watching, and see who still wants to comment and whatever. I know like you guys are still here. I still see likes and views and everything like that. But I like the comments too. Um, but so I can also do like a subscriber special. There'll be two additional comic reviews, and what I mean by that is that I have my last video when I showed the comics that I was gonna review. I don't believe I showed these two. Actually, I know I didn't. So these first two are House of M and Rorschach. Actually, it reminds me to grab my phone for one of them. But let's do House of M and Rorschach first. House of M I've read before, and I do like this book enough, but it does not hold up as well as it did the last time. About like let's say 6 months ago, if you would ask, not even 6 months, like a month ago, if you would ask me how I felt about the House of M event from Marvel Comics, I would have said it was a really good comic and that I loved it, and it's Brian Michael Bendis has best and everything like that, where he was doing really good and everything like that. But on a reread, does not really hold up as well. It's still a good comic. I still understand why people like it. It's still a groundbreaking comic event. Like it's an actual comic event that it has stakes and everything like that. But for me, I just feel like they could have made this. They could have made this a little bit better. And what I mean by that is that a lot of what you want to see is probably in the tie-ins, and is also like it's got like a 2 page like it's not, what's the word, it's like I can't think of the word. It's not like, no, I can't. But like they'll have like Spider-Man, like that whole thing with Spider-Man. I remember that being a lot, like taking a lot more space in the book, and here it doesn't. I feel like I know there's a spin-off, or so not spin-off. There's a tie-in that explores. There we go. It explores that a lot more. That was what I was looking for. But a lot of what's in here isn't explored as well, and in exchange we get a lot of padding. And not good padding either. It's kind of like, oh, I gotta make this 8 issues. I could do this, but no, I can't because that's explored in the tie-ins. So I can't do that. That's in the tie-ins. I can't even. I can only allude to it. And I think what they should have done with this was that this collection should have had like the necessities. So I feel like not. I feel like, yeah. And then there's an omnibus, and it's actually two omnibuses too. We got one already. And there's gonna be a companion omnibus coming out next year, which that is a lot, even back then, especially back then. But I still liked it. I still do recommend it, but probably pick up the omnibus and maybe the companion when it comes out. That's what I would recommend. And it's annoying for me because I hate when comic events do that. Like Absolute Carnage, I would say for the most part you could just read. I mean, I do recommend getting tie-ins, but you could read the 5 issue miniseries, all 6 issues. I think it was 6 issues or five. I don't know. You could read that event all by itself, and you wouldn't have to read any of the tie-ins. With this, I feel like you had to. And not that like it makes a difference. You could read this and not be confused. No, it's mean like the tie-ins flesh out a lot of what's brought up in here a lot more. That was what I was looking for. Flesh out, not explore. I mean, both are suitable. And now we got Rorschach, the book I just finished like 2 seconds ago. This is not the best Watchmen sequel, but if it's between that and Doomsday Clock, I would still pick Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock is the more like a more faster pace. It's a lot more like interesting than this is. This is a lot of information in 12 issues. This should have been like almost. I feel like this should have been 15 issues. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this book, and I feel like a lot of it's lost because there's a lot of like explanations. It's a very wordy comic. I feel like it's even more wordy than the original Watchmen was. But I mean, this is a good enough sequel. If you like Tom King, you'll definitely like this. But for me, I would just like even I like Tom King, but I just felt like it was a lot of. I need to like read it again before I really fully grasp what was going on. And I like that, and it's nice that I have Comic Pop back issues to explain everything to me. So I will, so I'll know everything that happens. I haven't finished that video yet, but I mean, I just wanted to give my like first thoughts before I did that. I'm not gonna read this again until I read it again, and that's gonna be in a while from now. That's gonna be a while from now. And now we go on to here so I did this a long time ago. I just don't have the books physically because nowadays I do have the book physically because I do it in 2 separate videos. But I ended up returning the books because I did have that candy poker thing, which I thought they wouldn't, but they did. All right, so here we go. First one up was Bingo Love. That was the lesbian one written by T. Franklin I showed you. It was like the lesbian grandma's one. I actually liked it. I am very it didn't really speak to me. Like I would never have picked up that book and bought it myself on Amazon or anything like that. But it was kind of one of those things where I was like, you know what, I need to read a T. Franklin book because she's very vocal. Let's just say she's one of those people that is kind of like vocal about how she feels about certain comic creators. There's this whole thing with Scott Snyder, that whole controversy, and then the Mark Waid thing, and there's a lot of stuff like that. And it kind of it's like, okay, what kind of books does she write? And I honestly did like it. I would not recommend it to I don't think anybody here unless you're into romance comics. But it wasn't one-sided. It was it felt very grounded in reality. It felt like this would happen in real life, and this is how it would go. This is how it would go around, how it would how it would happen. It felt very realistic, and it wasn't like, oh, this happens. It's not checklist either. I felt like it was very, very not unique, but I can't think of the words. Like grounded in reality. I think you guys get the point. I do recommend it to romance fans only, pretty much. Shudder Volume 1. Now this is another surprise thingy. Surprise. Why can't I think of words? Like, it's so weird. I was like, I can't words right now. Another surprise comic review. There, I had it. I don't know why. I'm not trying to rush or anything like that. I'm kind of sort of am, but not really. So another bonus review for Shudder Volume 1, which I also really I thought I liked it enough. It got better as it went along, but those first few issues, I was like, glad I didn't buy this myself, because I was gonna buy it myself because maybe the library doesn't have the last volume, and when that happens, it's a series I do want to check out, especially by a writer I bought a book from before, or a genre especially. I was gonna buy it myself because it's like, at that point I might as well buy it myself, but they got better as it went along, and I do have volume 2 when I get to the library, whenever that is. It might be today, might be Thursday, I don't know. I hope it's today, but even then, I don't know if I can go to today. It'd be nice. The only exception would be if I couldn't go today, no matter what, and I can go Thursday. Yeah, I did like Shudder. I do recommend it. It has a very slow start, and it's kind of like just a weird start. Like, I wasn't like interested at all, and it wasn't just that I wasn't interested. It was kind of like mundane. It felt like I had seen this before, but I really hadn't. It was kind of like, it wasn't even like, it was standard or anything like that. No, it was just kind of like monotonous, I guess you'd say. But I got much better as it went along, and it does end on a pretty big cliffhanger. I was like, oh, okay, now we'll check out Volume 2. Then we got, and it was like at the end of it, I was like, yes, this is why, and at the end of it, I said to myself, this is why I like, not necessarily myself, I said, this is why I like Image Comics, and they had, and it's like the best, like the best, like, not the best definition, like, I don't know why I can't. It's not that I need to write scripts or anything. I don't think they would help at all, because I would still be stuck. If anything, the video wouldn't come out until next month if I did a script. And I feel like, I don't know what it is. I feel like I need to go quicker than this. Like, and then if I just do it, you guys don't need to know like every single thing, every single thought I have about a book, because that will be here for days. I just need to say like, this is how I feel, and you'll get a good enough view of how. See, even that I can't say. Like, you get enough good enough definition. Definition didn't sound right of how the book would be. See, I feel like I also need to say the right words. When I say the right words, but it means the same, it sounds bad. But anyways, we got 18 days. I didn't finish it. It was so annoying. It was a script. It was like a screenplay inside a comic book. Literally that. It was a widescreen book too. I don't have it to show you, but it's a widescreen book. You stop when I shut it off. When I was doing the comic book pre-reviewing. But you had pictures in there, yeah, like a comic book artwork, but it was just a screenplay, and it wasn't even interesting either. It was pretty bad. And I was glad it did technically go by chapters. I did read chapter 1 in the prologue, of course. After that, I was like, you know what? If we go by chapter, I'm only reading chapter 1. I'm done, and I put it away. the most irritating Grant Morrison book since that the Avengers one, not the Avengers, but the British Avengers one, the knockoff one. And lastly, we got Purdy, which I really like. It's Perdy by Kikale, which is impossible to find on Amazon for whatever reason. You can find it if you go from Image Comics, go to the Purdy, look that up, Kikale. No, how did I find it? So I don't think even then I couldn't find it because I think they don't have their own like separate section like they do for every other book. It was really weird, but I really enjoyed it. Like with Shudder, when it started out, I was like, oh, it's one of these kinds of books, and my Get Purdy Volume 2, because I spoilers, I was getting Volume 2. I'll show the artwork. The artwork reminded me a lot of Headlopper by Andrew McCullen from Image Comics, also from Image Comics, I should say, and when it started out, it was a lot of like juvenile humor and just like, oh, it's this kind of book. But as it goes along, it gets a lot more into the story. Like I feel like when it started out, it was like a lot more just like comedic, like hijinks and junk. And then as it went along, it was like, oh yeah, I said too, we had to tell a story. I think if they cut out like 20 pages in total, and from here and there, not just in the beginning, we'd be fine. And I would like it a lot more. But as it is, I do recommend it. And it's pretty affordable. Not affordable, like, oh, anyone can buy it. But I mean, like, compared to other hardcovers that are that size from even from Image Comics, it's a pretty good deal. So I do recommend you buy it if you have to. You have to buy it. Oh yeah, I gotta order these by All right, so I guess we're not doing the good. No, because we are still good. So we are still good with. Yeah, we are. Oh, 18 days we weren't. You know what? I'm just gonna go in. I'm just gonna go in regular order, because I kind of for this time at least I'm gonna go, because I'm gonna get an exception because I had books on here. I know I could not say it. Grave and I did not like. It was a poem. It had artwork like this, and the artwork was really cool, but it was just a one long poem, and it wasn't even like even I feel like even Neil Gaiman would say this is too much. That's Neil Gaiman that would say that. I still do somewhat recommend it though. It wasn't absolutely terrible. I just didn't like how it was a poem. I feel like on the reread it'd be a lot better, and the artwork was pretty good. It was also very confusing. Like, I feel like you could put each chapter in any order you wanted to, and it would still have the same reaction. I still have the same reaction. I would still be, it's confusing. I could literally go backwards, forwards, top side, and diagonally, and I would still have the same reaction. That's pretty bad when you say that about that book. Then we got Oddly Normal Book 2, a good enough kids comic. I kind of like if they don't have Volume 4 I think it's 4. I'm not going to annoyed about. I'm not going to dismay, and I can be like, oh, I don't have it. I'm going to be like whatever about it. It's one of those books that I feel like, why am I reading this? Like, why? This is obviously targeted towards like, little kids, and is not. And I know, like, okay, then you say that, okay, but then you read like a Marvel book from like the '60s or the '80s when it still was made for kids. Yeah, and that's what I say. But it feels like it's really targeted towards kids, like not like alarmingly so, but to the point where I'm like, yeah, why am I reading this at times? But it's still pretty good. It's still I can't recommend it to anybody here unless you like you're fine with reading a kids comic. But it's just like it's like Fairly Odd Parents basically. That's what I would say. And yeah, I do watch that show from time to time too, but I don't know. It's besides like I don't read the comics. Like SpongeBob, I watch SpongeBob, and I don't. The only comics I've read are the ones I got for free from Free Comic Book Day, and that was just for shits and giggles. So it's kind of that mentality of I watch SpongeBob and Fairly Odd Parents, but I don't know if they even have Fairly Odd Parents comics, but I don't read the comics. It's kind of the mentality I have, and I know I said that twice, but I was trying to reiterate. Telos was extremely boring. This comic was like, and I don't even know how it was this boring. It wasn't the way they told. I don't know if it was the way they told the story, or if it was just like it felt like it was very dated or something like that. But not like good dated either. I mean, sometimes it was good dated. Like, oh, they had like the somewhat scantily clad women. And I was like, I don't mind that. But it's just kind of like I felt like a late '90s comic that was just kind of like a checkbook and a checkbook. It was like what I mean. They're doing it for the check. You know, doing it for the paycheck. There we go. It felt, kind of felt like a paycheck comic at times. Like I guess you could say, but even that, like I think it was kind of like everything at once. You know, it was kind of writtenly boring. It was also like a paycheck comic. It also felt like it was very dated, and it was kind of all those things mixed together, and I just got like a bland book. Like it was this is the eating a burger with no honey mustard, like that meme. No, this is eating like a burger with nothing on it kind of book. Some people like that. Some people don't mind it. If you're hungry enough for it, like yeah, okay, even a burger with nothing on it, it's gonna be still appetizing for you. But for me, I'm like, no, I want at least something of substance on that burger. And it was a nothing burger kind of book. Volume 2, and it's not of 2. There is not a Volume 3. It got prematurely canceled. It was really weird. There's a few more issues. I'll probably end up reading those somehow. Maybe we'll get them on Kindle. Maybe I'll buy this book myself and then get those on the Kindle, because I like this book a lot. It does, the one downside I do have, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. Closer to an 8 and then 7. So 7 out of 10. Closer than 8, but not 7. Closer to an 8 out of 10 than a 6 out of 10. The one thing bringing this book down is I feel like they could make this book 12 issues total. You know, total. Or 10 issues total. Because there's a lot of, like, not just padding, but there's a lot of, like, unnecessary dialogue. I feel like we're on, it's kind of like a deleted scene of anything. Not a deleted scene, but extended scene. You know how they have, like, the DVD will come out for, I know I'm saying this for movies, but and how movies will come out with deleted and extended scenes. Yeah, I feel like this was one of those ones that one of the extended scenes was put into the comic, you know, or if it's a movie, into the movie. But all in all, I do recommend this book. It's a nice little mystery book, and it reminded me a little bit of Wayward, how Wayward started out, at least, you know, with the school and everything like that. And I guess what I've heard from Morning Glories. Yeah, you could say it reminded me of Morning Glories. Genius Volume 2. Just like the first one, it was boring as sin. Like, how do you make this book boring? It's like if you would tell me the premise of this book, I would be like, oh my god, like, it's like Saints Row. Like, that's what I felt like it was. Like, it was kind of like a Saints Row, but not as ridiculous as Saints Row gets, of course. But like a Saints Row, Grand Theft Auto, like gangster kind of comic. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll check that out. I liked Mayhem. It was a Mayhem. And this one was just like boring. And this one got too like convoluted too. Like a bunch of stuff happened there. Like how did we go from point A to point Z in like 2 issues? I feel. I do not recommend this book at all. It would probably be in the bad. But it's still like I do have to give this book credit because it's not like a 1 out of 10. No, it does. Sometimes I was a bit intrigued, and the artwork is pretty good. And also, if you liked Image comic books back in the day, like in the late 2000s or early 2000s, I would want to say, you'll probably like this book. Like if you like the feeling of it, not like the actual, like, you know, the pacing and the characters and whatever, just the feel of it, because it felt like a dated kind of book, but in a good kind of way sometimes. And the action was pretty good too. And it was just like it was just a story I didn't like. Didn't think it was too great, and the pacing was terrible. Moonstruck Volume 2. I laughed at a joke in this book, and I'm like, I laughed at it, and I was like, I wasn't supposed to find that funny, was I? I was supposed to be offended, wasn't I? And sure enough, I was. This is a pretty ugly comic, but it's a little smidgen better than Volume 1, because it actually has a story this time. I feel like Volume 1 was a lot of just stupid jokes and like stupid characters doing stupid things, and then you had a story after. Yes, you did have a story, but this one was more story oriented, and after you have a story first, then dumb hijinks after. I only would recommend this book to people who are constantly on Twitter. And I only have 1 more volume of it, and I'm done. Rocket Girl. Only reason why I'm going to see Volume 2 of this book next library haul, there's only 2 volumes. So I'm like, you know what? If I'm doing that for Moonstruck, why not do that here? Because Moonstruck is 3 volumes. This one was just kind of boring. Again, a lot of these books are just kind of boring. It has a pretty good premise, but it's just confusing and confused. confusing in its story and confused of what it wants to be. I feel like there's a lot of things, and again, at times it is a bit interesting, like with Cartel or Genius Volume 2 Cartel, but Genius, it's a series. I feel like it was a lot. Again, it was like with Genius, there's a lot of stuff in here that was a little bit interesting, like kind of at times, but mostly it's boring. No Mercy started out really annoying, like the first half of issue 1, and then got past that, and then it got really, really interesting. This is I'm gonna go over what the book's about. It's one of those we're lost kind of things. Oh, we're lost, and it's only a few. It's us kids. We don't know what to do, and I like those kinds of books. And when it's adults, it's kind of not like the intrigue is almost non-existent because they're adults. But with kids or teenagers in this case, it's a bit more interesting because they are teens. They're not exactly. I mean, yeah, some of them are smarter than others, but a lot of them have never experienced this before. And I feel like with most adults, maybe they've experienced, maybe they haven't. Yeah, okay, you could say that, but I feel like it's a lot more intriguing because it had teenage characters than adult characters. But very, very interesting book, and I think Alex de Campi is a writer I'll look into more. What I've read from her so far is pretty good. She's one of those writers where you can separate the art from the artist. So I'm pretty sure she's one of those people that on Twitter attacks fans pretty much. I could be wrong though. I remember hearing her name here and there before, and not in the best, and not positively either. And from people I trust too, not from someone who's going to complain about everything. No, from people I trust have said. I vaguely remember them saying something bad about her, and it was one of those things where yeah, okay. User by Devin Grayson. Very, very good. Has a bit of a slow start. Once it starts going, it never lets up. This was a very, very interesting comic. Again, I'm going to go over the plot real quick here. It's a lot like Ready Player One, but not. It's like Ready Player One in the sense that they're living inside not living inside the video game, but you see the characters inside the video game, then you see them in real life. Kind of like Avatar kind of thing. You know what I mean? But very, very interesting. If you even sort of liked Ready Player One, but if you liked Ready Player One but hated all of the pop culture references, this is the book for you. There is almost no pop culture references, especially in the fantasy land that they go to. It's not actually called Fantasyland, but it is a fantasy land. I called it, but it is a fantasy land. There's no pop culture references, I think, at all in this book. It's maybe one. Then we got Meet the Skrulls by Robbie Thompson. Just as good, if not better than I remember it being. I highly recommend this book to anybody, honestly. You don't even have to have read Secret Invasion beforehand. I haven't read Secret Invasion in almost as long as I've been since I first read House of M, and even then I didn't need to know. Even then I wasn't confused at all. You just sort of need to know. Not even then. This is a perfect introduction into what the Skrulls are all about. So definitely recommend this book. It is very good. And yeah, there's a mention I was on a point why it's called Meet the Skrulls. I was gonna say it's Meet the Parents, but it's not like that. It's more like a family of Skrulls and their misadventures kind of thing. Then we got Star Wars Screaming Citadel. Pretty good crossover. That's all I'm gonna have to say. But the artwork is I do have one thing to say. It's very jarring going from Star Wars artwork to Dr. Aphra artwork. So here's Dr. Aphra artwork from Dr. Aphra series, right? I'm right? Pretty sure, yes, it was. And then you get Star Wars artwork right here, see? It's very jarring. I definitely prefer the Darth Vader / Star Wars artwork more than the Dr. Aphra artwork. I feel like Dr. Aphra artwork is kind of like that. When you would do a comic parody of Star Wars, that's kind of the artwork you would have, or a funny pages kind of Star Wars, especially the first volume. I feel like I was reading a Sunday strip of Star Wars. I wonder if they did that back in the day, a peanut strip. Not that juvenile of artwork, but that kind of that more sketchy than less realistic, more sketchy than the Star Wars artwork, even the Darth Vader artwork. Magneto Last Days. A pretty good conclusion. Again, it's Last Days, so you know what that means. It means Secret Wars came out after this, so it's continuing Secret Wars, but a pretty good conclusion to a damn good run. This is an extremely underrated, not even Magneto book, but comic book in general. Not Marvel, not superhero. No, just comic book in general. Nobody talks about this, or the writer even, Colin Bunn. When I looked there, I knew who wrote it. I didn't even finish this one. This was boring beyond compare. This is a 1 out of 10 boring comic. There was maybe one 80, like 2-page. There was more in Telos that I found interesting than this. This is extremely boring. The worst tie-in I've ever read, honestly. And this is coming from a guy who likes the Civil War II event himself, likes more than anyone else does. Most other people do. That actually kind of liked Civil War II, especially the first time. The first time I read Civil War II, I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Second time, I was like, okay, I'm starting to see the cracks. But this was terrible. I think even back then, if I had read this, I would have hated it. This is the inverse of Civil War Frontline, where Civil War Frontline was actually interesting. It actually had a point to existing, since it was also a tie-in that was in between the events. It was like, oh, issue 1 of Civil War, and issue 1 of Civil War Frontline. You know what I mean? But this was just the inverse of it, where it didn't even matter. It didn't even matter. You could skip this and miss nothing. Where if you skip Civil War Frontline, yeah, you could skip it, but you miss a good story. But this is terrible. Absolutely boring beyond compare, and a weird little I don't know if I can show this the best way, but a weird little misprint. This is not issue 1. This is issues 1, 2, and 3, and then you have it here, and it's really weird. It was like they put like a story before they issue. So it was Nick Fury boring ass book part 1 for issue 1. You got all that from and then it was part 1 of 6. So there's 6 issues in this. You got all 6 parts to one book, and it was all one chapter. It was really weird. I was like, you know what? If you're not even gonna bother to predict it correctly, then I'm not gonna bother to finish this book. I got pretty close to the end. I had like 3 left, so I was halfway there. But I had absolutely there's no reason for me to finish that book. Also, I actually kept forgetting about it too. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't finish that book. Like just this time around when it came up next, I was like, oh yeah, I didn't finish that one. Now on to something good. Well, at least that I like, and that's a Ms. Marvel Volume 5. I like this book. I do. And it's a little bit, I do see the cracks a little bit here and there. This is a technical relaunch, but they did do the common courtesy of labeling this Volume 5. It's not shown here because they have the sticker over it, but it is Volume 5. So at least they had a common courtesy to do that for trade readers. To do that for trade waiters. Yeah, showing the cracks a little bit. I'm trying to see why people don't like Ms. Marvel, but for me, I like the book and the character. Honestly, I feel like she is a lot more has a lot more flaws in her character. Like not like her as a character. No, a lot more flaws that make her a more well-rounded character than people give her credit for. So I do recommend this book. Deadpool's Secret Wars, a fun little tie-in to the original Secret Wars, but a nice little it's like, I guess you could say what if. Very interesting to see what they play with too. But on Deadpool versus the Marvel Universe, or Deadpool and Cable Volume 8 of 8. This I finally got to finish once and for all. I did have to do a certain thing to get Volume 7 for free, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. No one else had it, and it wasn't available on Amazon either. Yes, on the Kindle, but I'm not gonna spend $8 for a book that I'm gonna read once. Well, I'd read more than once, not just have Volume 7. At that point, might as well buy all the books. It's like, But I do highly recommend you get the omnibus when it comes out. Yes, I do say the omnibus, because these are all the trade paperbacks out of print. The complete collection might not be. That was somewhat recent, but I would say get the omnibus. Like this deserves the omnibus treatment in the reprint omnibus actually, and for you to purchase the omnibus. But I would say wait till the new printing. It's out of print right now, so maybe if you want to pay for it, but I would say wait for it to be wait for it to come out. even pre-ordering it right now, I would say to do. Avengers: Fear the Reaper was a little bit better than they remember it being. But the Citizen King, but I say a little bit because the Citizen King, I feel like I remembered a lot. I feel like I liked a lot better, but this time I hated it. Citizen King, not Kane. And the Len Kaminsky 3-issue miniseries, which is Fear the Reaper, was absolutely amazing. Definitely, if you can get this at like a supreme discount, like $5, I would say buy that just for the Citizen King, not Citizen King, just for the Len Kaminsky book, just for Fear the Reaper. Or find a trade with it, or find the issues, honestly. And the Bob Harris stuff was actually a little bit better than I remember it being. His first story in this trade was actually very good. It was it was honestly a world outside your window contender. And if you know what that means, then I hope you guys know what that means. I don't want to give it away at all. It was a very, honestly, almost tearjerker comic. And I probably gave a little too much away, but you shall see for yourself. Teen Titans is the last of Benjamin Percy's only three volume run. Very, very good. I like his Teen Titans way more than his Green Arrow. So that should say something. Ironically enough, guess what we have next? Oh, it's Green Arrow. Yeah, his Green Arrow run. So they did have volume 3. I don't know if I said this before, but I put in volume 3. They said they didn't have it. And I think this happened last time, too. They did. Same library, too, I believe. Right? Let's see. Green Arrow, I do like. Yep, same library. Green Arrow, I do like enough. Like, the story enough. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here that they do, and it's like, why are you doing this? There's no point in doing this with the characters. But they do it anyways, and it's like, okay, whatever. I get this is your run. You're allowed to do with the character without whatever you want to do, but alright. And I don't know enough about the Green Arrow character, but this Green Arrow feels a lot different than when I've read in other Green Arrow books, like the few that I've read. I read the Year One like 50 times. The Indie Diggle one is fantastic. My favorite Green Arrow book so far. I read some orphaned issues from Chuck Dixon's run, which is also amazing. I read some orphaned issues from the Golden Age, which even that I liked. And then I read I read the first volume of the J.T. Cruel one, which is the Brightest Day tie-in one, which I also liked. So all the Green Arrows I've liked, but this one feels too different from Green Arrow. Not in a good way either. Just in a way that, like, oh, I know what you're doing, and you're so clever, you know? Kind of one of those books. 7 Soldiers of Victory, it's a lot to get used, not a lot to get used to, but I feel like it's a little bit less good than I remember it being. A little bit, obviously. It's still good. I still like it. Still recommend it, but it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's technically an anthology, or it is an anthology series. All written by the same guy, obviously. Different artwork, obviously. Different artwork, though. I know, listen, obviously. No, different artwork, though. Not every story is good. There's the, what's his name? Clarion. The Clarion issues are terrible. Super boring, just not my thing, I guess. Even then, like, what they gave me, I'm very interested in just the way it's written. It should be my thing, because I am into that kind. I am into like the kind of like the magic kind of supernatural kind of stuff. The King Arthur is the best though, hands down. And the last issue was pretty good, pretty interesting too. Batman Joker's Asylum Volume 2, a worthy follow-up to an already fantastic Joker's Asylum Volume 1. This needs the oversized hardcover treatment. And also just so it can come back in print for a reason. Or a complete collection softcover, I'm not too picky. But just so it's back in print, you know. Red, a very, very quick but good comic. It was just 3 issues. And it wasn't oversized either, like it was for User. Sandman, good enough. Still good. I do not good enough. No, it's good. It's like really good. I do really like it. But it's that Sandman for me. You know, it's just there's a lot of I'm a lot more critical about Sandman than a lot of other people are. Superman for Tomorrow. Brian Azzarello's worst work. Wonder Woman. One of Brian Azzarello's best work. So yeah, an inverse. Kind of funny when that happened. Almost all these writers, honestly. Not almost all. Like Benjamin Percy had a complete opposite feeling about it I did for Green Arrow and for Teen Titans. And that, as they say, is that 34 minutes. All right, I'm gonna go. I think I've held you hostage enough.